The air was thick with the scent of roses and anticipation. It was my wedding day, the moment I'd dreamed of since I was a little girl. My name is Sophia, and I stood at the altar in a flowing white gown, my heart racing as I looked into the eyes of my soon-to-be husband, Ethan. Everything felt perfect. Too perfect. Little did I know, the day was about to unravel in ways I could never have imagined. Hey, before we dive deeper into this story, let me ask, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below, and let's see how far this tale travels. Now, let's get back to that day, the one that started with love and ended with a truth that changed everything. The venue was a charming outdoor garden in upstate New York, bathed in golden sunlight. Rows of white chairs were filled with family-fried flowers, their petals scattered across the aisle like a soft pink carpet. My family sat in the front row, Mom dabbing her eyes, Dad beaming with pride, and my younger sister Lily looking, well, let's just say her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Ethan's family was there too, his mother, Karen, with her perfectly poised posture, and his brother Jake, cracking jokes to ease the tension. Friends and cousins filled the seats, their laughter mingling with the soft hum of a string quartet. It was the kind of day you'd see in a magazine, flawless, elegant, and full of promise. I stood at the altar, my hands trembling slightly as I held Ethan's. His steady gaze grounded me, his warm smile reminding me why I'd said yes. We'd been together for 3 years, building a life in Chicago, late-night pizza runs, cozy movie marathons, and dreams of a future with kids and a house in the suburbs. Ethan was my rock, the guy who'd show up with coffee when I was stressed at work, who'd laugh at my terrible puns. This was our day, the start of forever. But as I stood there, something felt off. A tightness in my chest I couldn't explain. Maybe it was just nerves. Weddings do that to you, right? The crowd was smiling, the officiant's voice was warm and steady, but I caught fleeting moments that pricked at my nerves. A sharp glance from Lily when Ethan's name was mentioned. A whispered comment from Karen to her sister-in-law that made them both smirk. Little things, easy to brush off. Or so I thought. My parents, Tom and Diane, had spared no expense. Dad's a contractor, Mom's a school teacher, and they'd poured their hearts into making this day perfect. They'd always been my biggest cheerleaders, even when Lily and I bickered as kids. Lily, though, she'd been distant lately. Ever since Ethan proposed, her texts got shorter, her visits rarer. I figured she was just busy with her new job in marketing, maybe a little jealous of the spotlight on me. Siblings, you know? But she was here, front and center, her blonde hair catching the sunlight, her expression unreadable. Ethan's family was a different story. Karen, his mom, had a way of making you feel like you were never quite enough. Her compliments always came with a subtle edge, like when she said my dress was bold for a traditional wedding. Jake, Ethan's younger brother, was the opposite. Loud, charming, always the life of the party. He'd been Ethan's best man, his speech at the rehearsal dinner full of inside jokes that left me feeling like an outsider in my own love story. The guests were a mix of our worlds, my childhood friends from Syracuse, Ethan's college buddies from Michigan, and a handful of distant relatives who'd flown in from all over. There was Aunt Linda, who'd had one too many glasses of wine already, and my cousin Mia, snapping photos for her Instagram. It was a crowd of love and celebration, but beneath the surface, I sensed undercurrents. A tight-lipped smile from Lily when I hugged her that morning. A strange pause in Karen's voice when she toasted, "To the happy couple." Small things, piling up like storm clouds on the horizon. What was at stake that day wasn't just a wedding. It was love. Mine and Ethan's, yes. But also the fragile threads holding our families together. My parents' pride in me. Their hope for a perfect day. Ethan's desire to prove he was more than the good guy his family sometimes underestimated. My own need to show I was ready for this. Marriage, commitment, a life built with someone else. And then there was Lily. Her presence felt like a question mark, one I didn't want to read too closely. As we moved toward the vows, the air grew heavier. Not just with the weight of the moment, but with something unspoken. I could feel it in the way Lily shifted in her seat, her fingers twisting the stem of her champagne glass. In the way Karen's eyes lingered on me, like she was sizing me up. Even Jake's laughter felt a little too loud, like he was covering for something. I told myself it was just the jitters. Weddings bring out the best and worst in people, don't they? Everyone's emotions are raw, every glance magnified. I squeezed Ethan's hand, focusing on his steady presence, the way his thumb brushed over my knuckles. This was our day. Nothing could ruin it. Or so I thought. The music faded and the officiant's voice carried over the garden, warm and deliberate. Sophia and Ethan have chosen to write their own vows, he announced, a smile spreading across his face. My heart fluttered. This was it. The moment we'd pour our hearts out in front of everyone. I glanced at Ethan, his hazel eyes steady, a quiet strength in the way he stood. I took a deep breath, ready to speak, but before I could, a sound cut through the air. A low, sharp laugh. It came from the front row. My sister, Lily. Her hand flew to her mouth like she hadn't meant for it to slip out, but it was too late. Heads turned. A ripple of unease spread through the crowd. Ethan's grip on my hands tightened, just for a second. I caught Mom's eyes, wide with confusion, and Dad's brow furrowing. Lily leaned back in her chair, her face half hidden behind her champagne glass, but I saw it, a smirk. Not playful, not innocent, something colder. "Everything okay, Lily?" I asked softly, my voice barely carrying past the altar. I tried to keep it light, to not let the moment crack. She waved a hand, dismissive, her lips curling into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, nothing, Soph, just keep going." Her tone was sweet, but it dripped with something else, something that made my stomach twist. I pushed it down. This was my moment. I turned back to Ethan, forcing a smile, and started my vows. "Ethan, from the day we met, you've been my safe place." My voice trembled, but I kept going, pouring out every promise I'd rehearsed for weeks. The crowd softened, some guests dabbing their eyes. But I couldn't shake the weight of Lily's laugh, still echoing in my mind. When I finished, there was a gentle wave of applause, and Ethan squeezed my hands. His turn now. He began, his voice steady but warm, like he was speaking just to me. "Sophia, you make every day brighter." He was halfway through when it happened again. Another sound from Lily. Not a laugh this time, but a muttered comment just loud enough to carry. "He'll regret this." The words hit like a slap. A few guests gasped. Ethan froze, his jaw tightening. I felt the air shift, like the moment before a storm breaks. The officiant cleared his throat, trying to move things along. "Let's, continue," he said, but the damage was done. Whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire. Aunt Linda leaned toward my cousin Mia, her eyebrows raised. Ethan's mom, Karen, sat straighter. Her lips pursed in a way that screamed disapproval. Jake, Ethan's brother, shot Lily a look, half confusion, half warning. I wanted to scream, to demand what Lily meant, but I was rooted to the spot, my white dress suddenly feeling too tight. Ethan didn't miss a beat. He finished his vows, his voice steady, but with an edge I'd never heard before. "Sophia, I choose you, today and always, no matter what anyone says." That last part, he looked right at Lily when he said it. The crowd noticed. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Lily just raised an eyebrow, sipping her champagne like she hadn't just lobbed a grenade into our perfect day. The ceremony pushed forward, but the tension hung heavy. As we exchanged rings, I caught more glimpses of trouble. Karen whispered something to her sister-in-law, her eyes flicking toward me. Jake kept glancing at Lily like he was trying to figure out her game. Even Mom and Dad were off. Mom's smile was forced, and Dad kept tugging at his tie, a nervous habit. The string quartet played on, but the notes felt hollow, like they were trying to cover up the growing unease. After the rings, the officiant invited guests to share a few words. I braced myself. Most people offered sweet blessings. My friend Sarah talked about our college days. Ethan's coworker Mike made a cheesy joke about love. But then Lily stood up. My heart sank. She smoothed her dress, her movements deliberate, and walked to the microphone. The garden went quiet, every eye on her. She looked at me, then Ethan, and smiled. A smile that felt like a blade. "Sophia's always been the golden child," she started, her voice light but sharp. "Perfect grades, perfect job, perfect wedding, but Ethan..." She paused, letting the silence stretch. Let's just say some choices come with consequences. The crowd froze. Mom's hand gripped Dad's arm. Karen's face was stone, but her eyes burned. Ethan's jaw clenched so hard I thought he might crack a tooth. I wanted to run, to yank the microphone away, but my feet wouldn't move. Lily kept going, her words like slow poison. I just hope you're both ready for what's coming. She sat down, leaving the air thick with shock. Whispers erupted. Aunt Linda's wine glass tipped slightly, spilling onto her dress. Jake muttered something under his breath, his fists balled. Ethan's hand found mine, his grip tight, grounding me. But my mind was spinning. What did she mean? Why was she doing this? And why did it feel like she wasn't the only one hiding something? The officiant scrambled to regain control, moving us toward the final pronouncement. But the damage was done. The crowd was buzzing, the joy of the day tainted by Lily's words. I looked at Ethan, searching his face for answers, but his eyes were locked on the horizon like he was bracing for a fight. The tension was a living thing now, coiling tighter with every second. Something was about to break. I could feel it. And it wasn't just Lily's cryptic jab. There was more, lurking just out of sight, waiting to tear our perfect day apart. The officiant's voice trembled as he pronounced us husband and wife. You may now kiss the bride, he said, but the words felt rushed, like he was trying to outrun the storm brewing in the garden. Ethan pulled me close, his lips warm and steady against mine, but the kiss couldn't erase the weight of Lily's words. The crowd clapped, but it was scattered, hesitant, like they were all holding their breath. I forced a smile, clinging to Ethan's arm as we turned to face our guests, but my eyes darted to Lily. She sat back in her chair, her expression unreadable, like she'd just played a card and was waiting for the table to react. As we walked down the aisle, petals crunching underfoot, the whispers grew louder. My cousin Mia caught my eye, her phone lowered for once, her face pale. Aunt Linda was fanning herself, muttering to the person next to her. Ethan's mom, Karen, had her arms crossed, her gaze slicing through the crowd like a knife. Jake trailed behind us, his usual grin replaced by a tight-lipped frown. I wanted to ask Ethan if he knew what Lily meant, but his hand was firm on mine, guiding me toward the reception tent, like he was shielding me from whatever was coming next. The reception was supposed to be the fun part, twinkling lights, a dance floor, and a towering cake that Mom had spent months planning. But the air felt different now, charged with something unspoken. Guests milled around, sipping cocktails, but their smiles were strained. I overheard snippets of conversation as we passed. What did she mean by that? Is something going on? My heart pounded. I wanted to grab Lily and demand answers, but she was nowhere in sight. Instead, I caught Karen's eye. She gave me a look that could freeze water, then turned to whisper to Jake. We made it through the first dance, Ethan spinning me under the soft glow of string lights. His hands were steady, but I could feel the tension in his grip. You okay? I whispered, searching his face. He nodded, but his eyes flicked toward the crowd like he was scanning for trouble. Just focus on us, Soph, he murmured. This is our day. I wanted to believe him, but Lily's words, he'll regret this, kept looping in my mind. What did she know, and why did it feel like Ethan was holding something back? The toasts began, and the mood lifted slightly. Dad gave a heartfelt speech, his voice cracking as he talked about watching me grow up. Mom cried, squeezing my hand from across the table. Jake's toast was lighter, full of jokes about Ethan's terrible cooking, but even he seemed off, his eyes darting to Lily every few seconds. She was back now, sitting at the head table, her champagne glass untouched. I tried to catch her eye, but she avoided me, her fingers twisting the hem of her dress. Then it happened, the moment everything broke open. The DJ handed the microphone to Lily for her maid of honor speech. My stomach dropped. Part of me wanted to yank the mic away, to stop whatever she was about to do, but I was frozen, pinned by the weight of every eye in the tent. She stood, her heels clicking on the wooden floor, and smiled, a smile that sent a chill down my spine. I wasn't sure I'd get up here, she began, her voice smooth but sharp like a blade wrapped in silk. But some things need to be said. The tent went silent. Ethan's hand found mine under the table, his grip almost painful. Lily's eyes locked on him, not me. "Sophia's my big sister, and I love her," she said, pausing just long enough to let the words feel hollow. "But Ethan, well, let's just say he's not as perfect as he seems." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Karen's face went white. Jake stood halfway out of his chair like he was ready to lunge. Lily kept going, her voice steady, venomous. "Last month, I saw Ethan at a bar in Chicago. He wasn't alone. He was with someone. A woman. They looked close. Too close." The words hit like a punch. My vision blurred, the twinkling lights spinning. Ethan's hand went slack in mine. I turned to him, searching his face. But he wouldn't meet my eyes. The crowd was a blur of shocked faces. Dad's jaw dropped. Aunt Linda's wine glass frozen mid-sip. Mia's phone recording every second. "Lily, stop," I managed, my voice barely a whisper. But she didn't. "I'm only saying this because I care about you, Soph," she said, her eyes glinting with something that wasn't care at all. "You deserve to know the truth before you tie your life to someone who's already breaking promises." The tent erupted in murmurs. Ethan stood, his chair scraping against the floor. His face was pale, but his voice was steady, cutting through the chaos. "Enough, Lily!" Every head turned to him. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. "You want to talk about truth?" he said, his eyes locked on her. "Let's talk about the real reason you're doing this." The air was electric, every guest leaning forward, waiting for the next blow. Ethan's voice was low, controlled, but it carried a weight that silenced the room. "You're not protecting Sophia. You're punishing me." He paused, letting the words sink in. "Because I turned you down." The crowd gasped. Lily's face froze, her confident facade cracking. My mind reeled. What was he saying? I looked between them, my sister, my husband, and felt the ground shift beneath me. The truth was out, but it wasn't what anyone expected, and it was about to change everything. The tent was a frozen tableau, every face etched with shock. Lily's confident smile shattered, her cheeks flushing red as Ethan's words hung in the air. "You came on to me," Ethan continued, his voice calm but unyielding, the microphone amplifying every syllable. "Last Christmas, at your parents' house. You were drunk, upset about your breakup, and you tried to kiss me. I said no. I told you it was wrong, that I loved Sophia. But you've been holding on to that rejection ever since." A collective gasp swept through the crowd. Mom's hand clutched her chest, her eyes darting between me and Lily. Dad stood slowly, his face a mask of disbelief. Karen, Ethan's mom, uncrossed her arms, her stern expression softening into something like surprise. Jake nodded subtly, like he'd known all along. Aunt Linda's wine glass finally slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor with a sharp crack that echoed the breaking tension. Lily stammered, her grip on the microphone tightening. "That's not... You're twisting it." But her voice cracked, the poise gone. The crowd wasn't buying it. Whispers turned to murmurs, guests leaning toward each other, piecing it together. My mind raced, flashes of memories clicking into place. Lily's sudden distance after the holidays, her snide comments about Ethan, the way she'd avoid being alone with us. It all made sense now, a puzzle I hadn't even known was there. I stood, my legs shaky, but my voice found its strength. "Lily, is this true?" The question cut through the noise, and the tent fell silent again. She looked at me, tears welling in her eyes, not from remorse, but from being caught. "Soph, I didn't mean..." But she couldn't finish. Ethan stepped forward, his hand on my shoulder, a silent show of solidarity. The guests watched, some shaking their heads, others covering their mouths in disbelief. The officiant, bless him, tried to intervene, but it was too late. The truth was out, raw and ugly. Lily handed the microphone back, her shoulders slumping as she sat down, the weight of every stare pressing on her. Mom rushed to my side, wrapping me in a hug, her whispers fierce. "I'm so sorry, honey. We had no idea." Dad confronted Lily quietly, His disappointment etched deep. Karen approached Ethan, her voice low. "I'm proud of you, son, for standing up." Even Jake clapped Ethan on the back, murmuring, "About time she got called out." The reception shifted after that. The DJ played softer music, and guests began to mingle again, but the energy was different, charged with relief rather than tension. Some came up to us, offering hugs and words of support. My cousin Mia deleted her recording, giving me a thumbs up. Aunt Linda, ever the drama lover, declared it the most exciting wedding ever, but her tone was kind. Lily slipped away early, her exit unnoticed by most, but I saw her go, a shadow in the fading light. In the days that followed, the fallout unfolded slowly. Lily and I didn't speak for weeks. She sent a text apology, blaming it on jealousy and hurt, but it felt hollow. Mom and Dad cut ties with her temporarily, insisting she get help. Therapy, maybe time away. Ethan and I talked late into the nights, unpacking the betrayal. He'd kept it secret to protect me, not wanting to drive a wedge between sisters. But now we both saw how that silence had festered. His family rallied around us. Karen even apologized for her earlier coldness, admitting she'd sensed something off but misread it. The marriage went forward, stronger, oddly enough. We honeymooned in Hawaii, the ocean waves washing away the sting. Back home in Chicago, we set boundaries. Family visits on our terms, no more unspoken grudges. Lily eventually reached out properly, months later, and we started mending, slowly, with counseling. Not perfect, but real. The wedding video? We edited out the drama, keeping only the good parts. But that day taught us all something. Secrets don't stay buried, and truth, no matter how painful, sets you free. Looking back, that wedding wasn't just about vows. It was a test of love, loyalty, and the messy ties that bind families. It showed me how jealousy can twist even the closest bonds, how one person's pain can ripple out and hurt everyone. But it also proved that standing in your truth can turn humiliation into strength. Ethan's reaction didn't just silence Lily. It reminded me why I chose him. In the end, what could have broken us made us unbreakable. Weddings are supposed to be perfect, but life isn't. It's full of surprises, some shattering, others healing. If this story hit home for you, maybe you've dealt with family drama or a betrayal that changed everything, drop a comment below. What would you have done in my shoes? And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for more real-life tales that pull back the curtain on relationships and resilience. Thanks for joining me on this wild ride. Until next time.